What's the most important conversation in America today? The one that we're not having, okay? It's not about sex, it's not about money, it's not about politics. We're having a lot of conversations on those topics, okay? It's a conversation about dying. More specifically, about how we want to live our lives at the end of our lives. And what type of care we want, what type of care we don't want, and who we would like to be making those decisions for us. You know, should it be an EMT in the back of an ambulance? Should it be a nurse in the ICU? Should it be a doctor you've never met before? Or should you be making those decisions for yourselves, if and when it comes down to that? I know what you're thinking. We talked about something a little more pleasant tonight, but we know the title of tonight's topic, so we know what we're talking about here. Death, you know, is never an easy thing to talk about, particularly when we start thinking about our own death and death of our family and friends and loved ones. Okay. In fact, death is a topic that many comedians have made comic references to. You all know this guy, Woody Allen, one of the great philosophers of the 20th century. A number of years ago, Woody came out and he said, "I'm not afraid of death. I just don't want to be there when it happens." Then we got Yogi Berra, famous baseball player and commentator as well. Yogi was having a conversation years ago with his wife, Carmen. She says, "Yogi, we live in New Jersey, we play baseball in New York, you're from St. Louis. If you were to die, where would you want to be buried?" He says, "Carmen, I don't know, surprise me." He's also the same guy who said you should go to lots of other people's funerals, otherwise they won't come to yours. So again, we can talk about death, but so often it becomes in this context where we're just kind of joking around with it. So it's discomforting, it's difficult to talk about, that's a given. But there's some good news. In the last 100 years or so in our country, the lifespan has increased by 30 years. But unfortunately, we are all still mortal. And that has to do with technology. It's brought us a long way. And that may seem like bad news, but we are still mortal. And those words were exemplified, if you know this guy. Okay, Jim Morrison from The Doors, back in 1968, when most of us were just little kids. He wrote that famous song, 5 to 1. 5 to 1, baby, 1 to 5, no one here gets out alive. That same message showed up in this famous magazine, The Onion, which is a rather reliable news source compared to a lot of things these days. Has a lot of great parodies. If you read between the lines, I think there's a lot of stuff that holds up. This is from 20 years ago in The Onion. World Health Organization officials expressed disappointment Monday at the group's finding that despite the enormous efforts of doctors, rescue workers, and other medical professionals worldwide, the global death rate remains at 100%. That story came out in 1997. It still holds today. So I hope I haven't ruined your evening with all of this information. Point is, we don't like talking about death, yet it's something that all of us are going to face, probably. And studies have shown that when you don't have the opportunity to talk about what you're thinking, wishes, things that might be going on in the end of your life, that people, particularly family, loved ones, survivors, oftentimes after a person's death, they feel perhaps they didn't do the right thing. Not only they grieved, but they could feel guilty, could even go on to major depression because they didn't have that discussion. You know, in the old days, natural death was natural death. Check into the hospital, generally was thought of as the place that you either die. With the technology of today, there's a lot more choices, a lot more things going on out there. What we find, again through studies, as doctors, we like all these studies, we find that a lot of people are not necessarily spending their last moments in the way that they would choose. And this again creates all that consternation, again the guilt, the depression, particularly among family members and the survivors. So what do we do to solve this problem? Something very, very simple. Really very, very simple. You don't need a cell phone or a computer. You don't need an app. You don't need a credit card. You don't need an 800 number. All you need to do is have a conversation. Now, to digress for a moment, there's different types of conversations. And I think we need to realize when you have a really good conversation, a lot of it has to do with being a very good listener. So I want to show you this brief little video. It has nothing to do with dying, but it has a lot to do with having good, active listening types of conversations.